Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. I'm honored to be here with you tonight at the World Ahead 2022 Sofia Gala dinner. Please excuse the attitude of my speech and be aware of the fact that I'm going to talk about a topic that's very close to my heart. When I was little, I didn't have that typical childhood dream of becoming an astronaut. Instead, I wanted to become a singer, a poetess. It's not working, sorry. Okay, singer, a poetess, a drummer. And when I was 10 years old, I took up playing the drums as a hobby. It immediately turned out to be my biggest passion during this period of time. So I played in a few bands, and one of them was a rock band. We were 4 boys and 1 girl, the drummer. I remember the audience of our shows being always so shocked that I was a girl, but you know what? There are many stereotypes in this world. One of them is that drummers are usually considered to be boys or men, and another one is that astronauts are usually considered to be men as well. On the contrary, my dream that I've been following since 2018 and that I've turned into a goal is to become the first Bulgarian woman in space. Some of you may laugh, others might ask me, why? Why would a girl dream to go to space? Well, I will explain to you why. In 2018, I was 15. 15 is a fragile age in which teenagers go to parties, discover themselves, get to know the world. But for me, this age was perfect because I realized that I did not want to be mediocre and I set my ultimate life goal. I knew exactly how much hard work I had to put in to get to my final destination, space. But how everything started. Exploring the unknown universe is desire. Primary instinct, driving force, passed down from the Greeks through Galileo Galilei, Neil deGrasse Tyson, Einstein. This same spark ignited in me a space camp in Izmir, Turkey, a place that follows NASA's methods for training and preparation of the next generation of astronauts, scientists, engineers, and pilots. All trainees have missions in different modules of the International Space Station. They have a mission in the Space Shuttle Discovery. They're engaged in robotics, hydroponics, programming, physical, body demanding, and engineering challenges, STEM in general. When I participated in this camp, I was devoted to it, even though that space was not my passion during this period of time. I wanted to try every simulator, write down all the details of every lecture, and do as many experiments as possible. I remember watching this movie about an astronaut climbing on the rocks of Europa. Europa is one of the most famous moons of Jupiter. This movie started with a quote, "Imagine that this astronaut is you." At this moment, I just knew it. I felt it. I finally found out what my mission in this world was. To explore and go beyond my limits. I was the only participant invited personally by Meriton Chair, co-director and founder of Space Camp Turkey, to come back as a coach after reaching legal age with no competition for the position. When I got back home, I sat down, I opened my planner, and many questions appeared to my mind. How would I make this dream come true? I didn't know anything about Bulgaria's space program. Did we actually have one? What are the requirements to become an astronaut? Would I fit those requirements? Am I healthy enough? Is there a selection process? How can I become an outstanding candidate in the next selection process? So I made a strategic plan, and I have been sticking to it since then. Finding out what was the story behind the flights of our cosmonauts, Georgy Ivanov and Alexander Alexandrov, looking for the answers to the questions that I had, searching for opportunities in Bulgaria and abroad, establishing relationships with competent people in the field was a great beginning. Now, 4 years later, I'm glad to share with you that I have graduated from the 2 NASA space camps in the world, in Turkey and in the other one is located in Huntsville, Alabama, United States. I took part in a summer school research camp in astrophysics and astronomy, where we studied the meteor showers, Capricornids, Perseids, for 16 days. To be honest, I witnessed the most spectacular view of my life by seeing over 500 meteors. After a thorough analysis of data and consultations with scientists, my group submitted a study to the International Meteor Organization, IMO. I participated in 2 master classes of CERN. If you don't know, CERN is a special laboratory situated on the border of France and Switzerland, and the research field is particle physics. Last year, I had the chance to be a member of a team that built a ground station for tracking different satellites and receiving data from them. I competed in robotics, started gaining experience in scuba diving and skydiving, and thanks to the generosity of one man, I became acquainted with the management of a small single-engine aircraft. Prioritizing my goals drastically changed the people I had around me, but I don't mind. Yes, that was necessary for my development as an individual, and by focusing on my studies and my goals, I attracted the right people and the things that are best for me. A very sincere moment for me is a dinner that I had with our first cosmonaut, Georgy Ivanov, and 2 Russian cosmonauts, Sergei Zalotin and Alexander Vozutkin, who actually graduated from space camp like me. That's a proof that the trainees from there can really become an astronaut or an engineer or pilot or a scientist. So the atmosphere in the restaurant was very generous to us. It couldn't handle our laugh, their breathtaking stories, and the dreams that we had. It was a very cold first day of December. That night was like a strong wave that hit me with motivation and made my goals meaningful. Meeting Georgy Ivanov was like a basketball player meeting Michael Jordan, or a tennis player meeting Novak Djokovic, or a business person meeting Steve Jobs. I am now pursuing a degree in engineering physics and doing all this crazy training so as to acquire qualities, knowledge, and experience that will shape me into a strong and outstanding candidate in the next selection of astronauts. So the selection process is very complicated. You must have at least a master's degree, but I would recommend even a PhD since the environment is quite competitive. You need a scuba diving professional certification, experience in operating an aircraft, language skills, perfect health, 20/20 vision, mental stability, and more. Now, let's talk about the facts. 80% of the astronauts from the newest NASA class have a military background. Until 2020, 566 people have traveled to space, and only 65 of them were women. Imagine how hard it is for a woman to compete with strong men that are part of the military. Astronaut applications are growing at an alarming rate, and I'm talking about thousands of people applying for one of the 10 or 12 positions available. Last year, the European Space Agency reported receiving over 23,000 applicants and 12,000 goals for NASA. And imagine, that's not my biggest problem. Unfortunately, when I started following this dream of mine, I came across many obstacles. Sadly, people think that it is pointless to invest in science and astronautics. We already have 2 cosmonauts, right? Why do we need one? First of all, it is an example of national esprit. It is a cause for pride, it is the future of humanity, and it must be the highest goal of a nation. If not metaphorically, then literally. Our cosmonauts, Georgy Ivanov and Alexander Alexandrov, went to space in the 80s with a special program between the USSR and Bulgaria. Bulgaria is the 3rd country in the world to produce space food. The scientific works on hydroponics of the associate professor Dr. Tatyana Ivanova became property of the United States. The pose of our first cosmonaut did not change. Unfortunately, 1 month ago, I had a phone call with our second astronaut, cosmonaut Alexandrov, and he explained to me that in the past, Bulgaria and the USSR had very friendly and partnership-oriented relations, but now that's just history. That's where I face my biggest problem. I am born and I live in Bulgaria. And don't get me wrong, Bulgaria is a wonderful country in many ways, but I don't have many opportunities here due to the fact that Bulgaria does not have a signed contract with the European Space Agency. To be clear, the European Space Agency has 22 member countries. Any guesses? Bulgaria is not one of them. Meaning that we cannot have a third cosmonaut. These are circumstances that might affect me in the future, but many Bulgarians are not eligible to qualify for higher work positions, not because they are not exceptional, but just because they're from a country that is only an associate member. That prevents me from applying for scholarships and internships and sets limits to my preparation. Of course, that made me mad, and I wanted to find out who was responsible for this. So I could not think of a more brilliant idea than to talk to the President of the Republic of Bulgaria. Obviously, it took me some time to realize that meeting with the President is not the easiest appointment to make. I wrote a letter to him, and I received an answer from his secretary, so I could not be sure that the letter managed to reach him. Months after that, I heard that he was coming to my town. There were many people waiting at the square to see him, greet him. Policemen and patrols were guarding everywhere, so I decided to ask them for assistance. I told them that I had a letter addressed to the President. Of course, they were extremely protective and busy and told me that I could not talk with His Excellency. So I came up with a new plan. I found the police chief and explained to him what was the situation. He suggested looking for someone from the civil bodyguards of the President. And I found one. He allowed me to meet with the President. And here you can see the photo of me shaking hands with him after the mayor of my hometown. Even in cases like this one, we should not give up. On the contrary, we have to find ways, build doors, and search for opportunities. I would say that over the past 3 years, I had to make the impossible possible so I could make my dream come true. And now I would like to share some examples with you that sometimes you need this ability to be insistent, ambitious, and adaptive. 2 years ago, I had to find a big amount of money for 48 hours in order to finance a camp that I wanted to attend. I wrote 50 letters to potential sponsors, and I succeeded in funding my participation by the end of the day. Moreover, I knew that I had to graduate high school with the highest possible grades, so I changed schools in the middle of my junior year in high school. I had to catch up with 3 years of Spanish, hold 6 equivalency exams, another 3 for changing my grades to subjects that I studied in 9th grade, and on top of it, that was a private school, and I moved without the permission of my parents, so I had to work hard in order to be a full scholarship recipient. You see, in the beginning, I thought speaking with the President of the Republic of Bulgaria was impossible, but then I met the Minister of Education, Dr. Solomon Pasi, and I'm now a space ambassador for the Atlantic Club of Bulgaria. I was invited to a private meeting with the U.S. Ambassador to Bulgaria, Harold Mustafa, and this was to share my intentions and worries. So this is a picture from the Space Challenges, a program that took place in Gala, Bulgaria. You probably don't know this person, but this person right there, that's the General Director of the European Space Agency, and I even managed to meet him. I'm not afraid to be a girl because I'm a fighter, and I hope that wherever you go next, you will not give up on your dreams. You will be vocal, you will share your story, and you will make the impossible possible, no matter what people think you can or can't do. You're capable of everything as long as you believe it. Earlier, I mentioned the quote, "Imagine that this astronaut is you." Now, I want you to imagine that this boss is you, this doctor is you, this lawyer is you, this prime minister is you. I promise to be by your side and continue believing that someday I'll be proud to say I did it. I will learn Russian perfectly if I have to. And if I have to, I will try 50 or even 100 times until I succeed. I would love to do all this without leaving my country. Live your dreams and make them reality. Every decision you make, from what you eat to what you do with your time tonight, turns you into the person you are tomorrow and the day after that. So look who you want to be and start sculpting yourself into this person. Sofia, it's Commander Ivanova. Thank you.